Hey everybody, it's Coach Hammock coming to you from beautiful Georgetown, Texas here in room 132. Hoping you're having a great day. Let's jump in and get going here. We're solving quadratics by graphing. Okay, so we factored them out and we're able to solve it by that. Now we're just going to graph them and look at where they're going to cross the x-axis. Okay, so we have three different scenarios that may happen. The parabola could cross the x-axis. Remember, we're looking at the x-axis right here. It could cross in two places, right there, right there. That's going to be two solutions to that problem. Now, what if it just comes down and barely touches the x-axis in one spot? That's one solution. And then if it does not cross the x-axis, there are no solutions. Now, one thing I want you to realize, this is for if a is negative. But what if a was positive and it went like this? Well, a solution would be there, a solution would be there. It doesn't matter which way it opens. And just like right here, we could have this one come up and look like that. That's a pretty good parabola right there, I'm just saying. Okay, and then if it didn't touch anything and it just went right like that, that would work as well. Okay, so 2 if it crosses twice, 1 if it just barely touches, and no if it's over here. All right, so we've got this problem right here. X squared minus 3x minus 10 equals 0. Well, you could probably factor that out right now and be like, oh, okay, x minus 5, x plus 2, and then I could solve for x. Another way that you could do that is to graph it. And I'm going to use my calculator to graph this real quick. X squared minus 3x minus 10. So I'm right here on my calculator. X squared minus 3x minus 10. And I'm going to graph it. And I can tell right now that I'm going to have two solutions. I'm going to have a solution right here, and I'm going to have a solution right here. Now, on your calculator, you might say, okay, it's -2 and it's 5. Well, it might be, or it might be a decimal pretty close to that. So the easiest thing to do is to go to your table, and you want to see when y equals 0, what is the x value? So yes, -2 is 1, and then we thought that the other one would be close to 5, and it is, right there. So let's go back and see if I said that the solutions were x equals -2 or 5, if that works. So if I take a 5 and I put it in here, I would have 25 minus 15 minus 10 equals 0. And a 5 checks out right there. So now let's try a 2. 4 minus or plus 6 minus 10 equals 0. And a -2 checks as well. All right. This stuff, guys, is extremely easy when we can put it in our calculator and see what the answer is right here. So let's look. They drew the graph. Okay. You have a point right here and a point right there. That works out. Okay, if you wanted to just put numbers in there and solve, I could make an x y table and say, okay, if x is 0, y is going to be -10, and I could go and put a point right there. If x is 3, y is -10, and I could go and I could put a point right there. All right, you can do that, and then you can just draw a nice curved line that comes up. See, mine's not as good. That's why I rely on the calculator to draw my lines. It just makes it a lot easier. Okay, so let's solve this one by graphing. X squared minus 2x minus 8. So again, I know you're thinking it's cheating, but it's not. X squared minus 2x minus 8, delete, graph it. So let's see. The only thing that I would say really watch out for on this is if it's outside of the window, and that's when you would have to go look at your table and make sure of it. So remember, we're looking at when y equals 0. And looking at the graph, it looks like it's going to be -2 and 4. So let's check those two numbers out. We've got a 4 equals 0, and we've got a -2 equals 0. So my answers are -2 and 4 or A right there. All right. Okay, going on. And there you go. -2, 4. All right, solve this one by graphing. All right, x squared plus 8x equals -16. First thing I've got to do is add 16 because I don't want it like that. I want to go x squared plus 8x plus 16 equals 0, or I could say y. Okay, so I'm going to go and put this in my y equals x squared plus 8x plus 16, and then let's delete everything out, and of course I'm just going to clear it out and start over. X squared plus 8x plus 16, and I'm going to graph it. Okay, now this one looks a little bit different because it comes down and it just touches that and comes back up. So I don't have the two answers as before. It looks like I might only have one. The trick to this, guys, is you've got to look at your table and you're looking for a pattern. You're looking for the 0 and then balanced numbers on either side of it. Okay, this line right here is my axis of symmetry. Okay, when x is -4, y is 0. So looking at this, what's the answer? X equals -4. My solution is -4. If I put a -4 in there, 16 minus 32 equals -16. That checks out. Also, if you wanted to solve this by factoring, it would be x plus 4 squared equals 0. Or x plus 4 equals 0. Subtract 4 from both sides. X equals -4. And look at that. We're pretty good in our math. Okay. All right. So here we go. You can check this one by graphing. Again, you have to add 1. It has to be equal to 0. So it's going to be an x squared plus 2x plus 1. Let's put that in and see. X squared plus 2x plus 1. Graph that thing. Goes down, looks like it's probably -1 right there. I can go to my table and check it. -1, and this is what I wanted you to see. Look at the balance on either side of the axis of symmetry. All right, you've got a 0, you've got 1s, you've got 4s, and then if you went out more, you had 9s and 16. So it keeps working. All right, it keeps going there. So x is going to be -1. All right, let's graph this one and take a look at it. X squared plus 2x plus 3. All right, plus 2x plus 3. Is that it? Yep, that's it. So if we graph this now, where does it cross the y-axis or the x-axis? It doesn't. It doesn't cross the x-axis. So it is a no solution problem. All right. There are no solutions to this. It is what we would say is prime. Okay. When we are factoring, we would say that this is a prime example or a prime problem because there's no way to multiply to get a 3 and add together to get a 2. All right. So now we're looking at this and we're going to be able to write quadratics given their graphs. Okay, so as we're looking at this, if you look, we've got two roots of the graph are -1 right here and 1. So those are our two solutions. So I want you to think about this. If we were solving this and we could say x plus 1 equals 0, that would give us x equals -1, right? So that's that one. All right, and then we could say x minus 1 equals 0, and then we add 1 to both sides, and we get x equals 1. And this is this point right here. So I could say that our solution, or our factors to this are x plus 1 and x minus 1. All right, so let's look real quick. So there's this formula, I'm sorry, x plus 1 and x minus 1. So now all I need to do is put an a right here and make it equal to y. You're like, Coach Ham, what in the heck fire are you doing right now? All right, just stick with me, watch, and you'll figure this out. Okay, so you see how x plus 1 gives you -1, x minus 1 gives you this one. Okay, so let's use this point right here. You can use any point that's on here, okay? But we're going to use 0, 2. 0, 2. And what we're going to do is we're going to put the 0 in for the x's, and we're going to put the 2's in for the y's. All right, so let's fill that in. And the reason I use 0, 2 is it gets rid of these x values and makes it really easy. Okay, so I've got a 2 equals a times 0 plus 1, 0 minus 1. Well, let's do some math real quick. 2 equals, well, this is just 1. This is minus 1. -1 times 1 is -1. -1 times a is -a. I'm going to divide by a -1, and I'm going to get a equals -2. And you're going, okay, I don't know what you just did, but you got this a equal to -2, and I'm okay with that. I understand that. Well, let's go back to this one right here, this first line, and instead of putting stuff in for x and y, let's put a -2 in for a and see what we get. So we get y equals -2 times x plus 1, x minus 1. Now, if I distribute all of this out, I'm going to get y equals -2 x squared, okay, minus 2. All right, there's a difference of squares right here, so it gets rid of the middle term. And so I should be okay right here. You know what? It's a positive 2. Sorry. All right, -2x squared plus 2. All right, so I want to put this into my calculator, and I want to see if it works. All right, if I go here, clear, -2x squared plus 2, graph it. And what I want to do is I want my graph that I just came up with to be the same as the graph it gave me. All right, and it is. Okay, don't freak out on this. Don't make every question in your whisk about writing a quadratic function for a given graph, and I don't understand that. Okay, we're going to work on it tomorrow. I promise you that. We'll do lots of examples on this. Okay, all right. All this table stuff we'll get to in class. It's just basically looking at the table in your calculator and figuring out what these points should be. And I'll show you some tricks as far as messing with the change of x and change of y that will help us out. All right, guys. Well, that's it. Hopefully, it's pretty easy section, lots of calculator work, and we should be good at that. All right. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow, and we'll see you then.